All right. Good evening, everyone. Massive excitement here on the call this evening. I see we've got over 344 people on. I'm sure there'll be a lot more hopping on as time progresses. And yeah, JP Koster, I'm a Platinum Presidential Director from Cape Town, South Africa. And this evening, we've got the incredible privilege I've got the incredible privilege to interview Ray Robbins, who's not only a co-founder of the company, but he's been Mannatech's top income earner for, over the last 20 years. Has got a lot of experience in the industry, and I think this evening specifically, I want to delve into some of the challenges that he's gone through his career, some of the obstacles you might face, and specifically also focusing on, as a brand new person, if this is your first call this evening, what are some of the things that you should be looking out for? What should you be doing? And then also maybe focusing a little bit more on, I know we've got a lot of leaders on the call this evening. If you get stuck as a leader, what do you do? What do you go back to the basics? Do you cancel upline? So we want to obviously delve into quite a few of those things as well. So Ray, it's a great privilege. There's been a lot of excitement about this call. A lot of people have been promoting it. So we're really looking forward to you share this evening. And I know it's a massive privilege to have you on our Choosing Out Loud because you don't do many interviews. In fact, I think the last interview I saw you do was the one with Richard Brooke. So it's great to also be able to have the privilege on, having you on the call this evening. So, I think if you can maybe just start off, I know you were a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. I think maybe if you can, share a little bit about your background. Perhaps also, I know you've also got a biochemistry degree. Maybe just for a couple of minutes, just, with people on the call this evening for the first time, if you can just share a little bit about yourself and, pre-Mannatech, sort of before Mannatech.
I'll be glad to do that. It's a delight to be with you. And I'm so proud of you, JP. I'm so proud of a young man in South Africa becoming a platinum presidential. I know a lot of people on this call do not realize what that means. I'll tell you in a simple way. It puts JP in the top 1% of all income earners in South Africa. So look at that young man and realize he is in the top 1% of all the earners in South Africa. That's amazing. He's got a young family that he will be able to provide for in a fantastic way. When he's thinking about where his family will go on vacation, he's not limited. When he's thinking about what his children are going to do education-wise, he is not limited. He can send them anywhere in the world. And he's a humble man at the same time. And his purpose is to give that same capability away to other people. If you're listening to this call or watching this call right now, you're looking at JP, I want to tell you the guy is one of the true leaders of the world and has the right attitude about taking other people to that same position. I've been telling people for 40 years that the number one thing that you can learn in this business is the delight and the successes of others. And JP has always been one of those kind of people. He delights in the successes of others. And that's the reason why he's so successful himself. I'll tell you a little bit about me. It's my pleasure. I love bragging about people like you. It's pretty easy. My best friend is a pulpit minister. And he tells me that the toughest thing in the world to do is a funeral service for somebody that hadn't conducted a good life. And he said he just loves to do a funeral service for somebody that has conducted their life in an acceptable fashion. It's easy to talk about people like you, JP. You conduct your life properly, and I love it. I love what you do for other people. I love what you guys have done for the orphans in South Africa. You're the only country that is doing business with Mannatech on a regular fashion, that is also going to orphanages every once in a while and seeing what Mannatech is actually doing with the M5M program. I wish everybody in Mannatech could do that because it would increase their purpose. They would feel more obligated to tell people about Mannatech because they know that you cannot buy our product without giving great nutrition to orphans all over the world. You guys are up close and personal with that. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about me. And I wrote a book called Get a Grip, where I talk about my beginnings and how I ended up becoming a network marketer. When I was born, my parents didn't hold me in their arms and say, oh, look, he's going to be a good Mannatech marketer one of these days. That's not what parents do, and that's not what people develop you into. But when I look back on my life, I realized that right from the beginning, I was preparing for exactly what I'm doing right now. And the first time that I was making a buck, I was very young, first grade. And I'd gone to a donut shop close to our house with my dad early on Saturday morning. And I asked the guy that owned the donut shop why he got into that business. And he shortly said, you're an entrepreneur. You're a natural entrepreneur. And I said, I have no idea what that is. And he explained it to me. And he said, do you want to be an entrepreneur with me? He said, I'm a natural entrepreneur too. This isn't the only business that I own. He said, if you'll come up here any morning early, I will give you as many donuts as you can walk out of here with. And then you take them door to door and sell them to other people. And he gave me a price to sell them at. And he said, when you come back, I will take all the donuts back from you that you didn't sell, and I will charge you half the price that you sold them for. Well, I started doing that, and I didn't do too well right in the beginning. And he said, okay, I'll give you a great idea. Now, this is the kind of thing that JP will do for those of you that are on this call, because he's been down the road to success. The shop owner said, don't just show them a closed up box of donuts. Don't just tell them what's in the box. Show them to them. Let them smell the donuts, and you will sell them. And he was absolutely right. When they opened the door, I would have a box of donuts opened, and they could smell the donuts, and nobody said no. Everybody bought some donuts. And pretty soon, I didn't have enough time before school started to just deliver donuts to the people that wanted me to come back. So I had to start hiring my friends. I started hiring other kids, and their kids' mothers would come to my mother and say, what is your son doing? Why is your son trying to hire my kid to deliver donuts? And so I ended up, for several years, every morning, and I had this fantastic network going. The kids that were real good at it, I let them make more and let them have people that they were working with. It was network marketing. So at a very young age, I got to see what network marketing was all about and how valid it was. And I kept that going with other businesses. I never got into a business that I didn't try to give that business away to other people that were interested. And then I got drafted into the Army, and I thought, how in the world am I going to do business with the military? How am I? And I found out that there were so many things in the military that were not available to soldiers, really not available when we got to Vietnam. So I found ways to ship into Vietnam things that people wanted and they could not get. And pretty soon, I had a whole bunch of soldiers that were part of a network marketing thing. So I might be out in a helicopter involved in combat, and people back at the base were making money for me, representing products that other people wanted. And I found out that what they wanted the most was little bitty ice boxes. Everybody wanted a little container that they could keep a few soft drinks or a few beers or a few slices of sandwich meat cool in the area that they lived. And I could buy those things all day long from a couple of different countries. And I had some Air Force guys that would fly them in, and I'd pick them up, and I had no problems at all selling those ice boxes. And, so I became a natural network marketer at a very young age, and it continued. And then when somebody introduced real network marketing to me, I knew the concept. I knew the concept worked. There's a lot of people that don't understand the concept today. There are a lot of people that get involved. They want to make extra money, but they don't understand that they're representing something to someone that is of greater value than what they're paying for it. So they have this attitude that the people are paying more than what the product's worth. And that is never the case with our product. Our product is always worth a whole lot more for people's health and well-being than what we're charging for it. But they feel guilty. They feel like they're taking something away from that person. So I spend a lot of time, and JP does too, getting people to have a level of confidence. And it's the biggest drawback. The reason why people don't succeed every time is because they're just not confident. They don't think they can do it. And the biggest reason why they lack confidence is they think that when they represent us to someone else, that they're getting the best advantage. That's not the case. The case is that you are presenting something to them that will make them healthier, period. There is no way that better nutrition isn't better for people's lives. And we have a way that if they want to represent it to other people, then they're not paying for the products anyway. They're getting more back from the company than what they're paying for the product. Now, we have, for every person that represents our product, 16 people are customers only, and that's what they want to be. So I'm not opposed to people being customers only. I love customers only. I have a great deal of respect for them. But anytime I have a customer that says, I love your products, but I'm having a hard time paying for them, I go, well, I've got an answer for that too, if you want to represent them with me. And I tell them a little bit about how I used to do the same thing with donuts. I used to do the same thing with ice boxes or whatever I was representing. And then if they want to help me represent, then I will teach them how. I will work with them. I never leave them alone. I stay with them until they feel confident or they're at a point where they're making more from the company and what they're paying for their products. And then I end up with a responsibility I have of telling them when they get to that point, you're not buying all the products you need. You don't even know about some of our products that I haven't represented to you yet. You need to learn about our whole product line because you are now in a position where they don't cost you anything anyway. You're buying a couple of $100 worth of products per month and you're making $500. So you need to learn about some of my other products because they're beneficial to you, they're beneficial to other members of your family, etc. And of course, you mentioned somewhere along that line, and I kind of alluded to it too, that I spent 6 years in the military, and I got a great deal of education in a number of different ways out of that. I'll mention one, and then I'll give it back to you. I learned how important it was to be prepared at anything you do in life. I found out pretty quickly as a helicopter pilot in Vietnam with a whole bunch of other helicopter pilots flying with me that they weren't prepared to do emergency procedures. I found out that we would have a check pilot every 6 months that would go over engine failures, hydraulic failures, all kinds of things that could go wrong with your tail rotor. But usually when the instructor pilot was checking that pilot out, they were unsuccessful at that particular emergency procedure the first time they did it. Well, if you have an actual emergency procedure, you don't get a do-over. If the engine fails and you're not capable of setting that aircraft down safely, you don't get to say, oh, let me do that one more time. No, the only time you can do that is when you're with an instructor pilot. So I decided to make sure everybody knew how to do every emergency procedure right the first time. What that whole position is teaching people how to be prepared for whatever you run into. In our business, I found out that what you need to teach people about is knowing their product real well, knowing their compensation real well, knowing how to counter objections, knowing how to really serve people, really love on people, really conduct your life in a fashion that's beneficial to them. And I'm saving people's lives by teaching them that, just like I saved people's lives in Vietnam by teaching them emergency procedures. I would have guys come to me to tell me that they had a tail rotor failure. And because of what I had insisted that they do, that they were able to bring that aircraft back and land it without hurting the aircraft or hurting any people. And they would cry. These grown men in combat would cry, telling me, I know I lived because you insisted on me being prepared. Well, the same thing is happening now. JP has been teaching people for a number of years now how to be prepared to a point where he's actually saving their lives. They're consuming products that are benefit to them. They're having kids have a greater capability in life because of the purpose of M5M. He's teaching people how to make an extra income. How important is it to make an extra income in these days when inflation is getting so bad? This is a perfect time to be asking people, hey, what do you think about how much things are costing today versus just a month ago? And everybody will start telling you about the inflation that they're experiencing. And so what is your answer? What are you going to do to counter that inflation? What's your idea to make sure you're making a little more so that you can cover for that? And most of them say, well, I don't have a plan. My plan is that we're just going to have to cut back. We're going to stop being able to conduct our life the way we were before. I said, you don't have to do that. The best answer is not to cut back. Not that I'm opposed to budgeting. I think budgeting is okay. But I chose a long time ago to not budget. Budgeting sometimes doesn't work. If you're barely making it and the refrigerator goes out, you don't have a choice. You have to buy a new refrigerator. And all of a sudden, you're worse than just barely making it. You're in a hole. So budgeting doesn't always work. You don't know when the refrigerator is going to go out or the transmission on your car. What always works, I got to say this 3 times. What always works is make more. What always works is make more. What always works is make more. We have a famous guy in our church named Mark Davis. And Mark Davis is known all over the United States for teaching people how to budget. He goes to church with me. I love to come up to him and say, hey, Mark, that budgeting stuff doesn't always work, but I can tell you, I'd love to be on some of your shows if you want to let me have a little time. What always works is to make more. That works. If you make more than you're spending, it's amazing how that always works. And so I have a lot of people in my life that pass that on to other people because of the way I say it, because I'm so enthusiastic about it. What they tell other people is, man, I discovered something from this guy in Central Texas about how you should make more. So what JP will teach everybody on this call, I love how many people, look at that, you're up to 436 people on this call right now. You should be proud of yourself for having so many people. You have such a strong organization. I am so delighted with, wow, do you realize you're talking to 436 people right now? And I'm sure that because of your recording it, there'll be people that are able to watch it later on. Incidentally, I bragged about you to our buddy Chris today, Chris Simon, and he said, tell JP to send me a copy. So he wants to, he couldn't get on now, but he definitely wants to see it later. Yeah, I'll let you say something or ask something.
Right. Yeah, I think, something I want to ask you, a little bit about the beginning days of Mannatech. Take us back to 1993, December 1993. I think that's officially when Mannatech started as Emprise. It was the first name of the company. But yeah, take us back to the beginning days, 1994. Just for some of the listeners on the call that don't know the story, just tell us why, why is Mannatech even here today?
Well, I, of course, have been an entrepreneur for a long time. And one of the people in my life that was an entrepreneur also from young in his life knew me real well. We had been friends and in business, and he knew that I had a particular health challenge. And he flew from Dallas to St. Louis with a guy that told him all about a plant growing around the equator of the world that was of value to people with my particular difficulty. So he called to tell me about it, and I gave him a real hard time because I felt like I had to know more than he and this guy flying to St. Louis, because I have an education in biology and chemistry. There's no way anybody could tell me anything. Unfortunately, I have found out that many people that are educated also have a block of thinking that they know more than somebody that's telling them a new piece of information. My wife is a whole lot smarter than me. So she started telling me, hey, I think there might be something to this. That guy's name was Sam Koster. And Sam pushed and pushed for me to look at more information. And so I finally said, okay, I'm going to prove to you that this stuff doesn't have any benefit. I'm going to take it. I'll take it for a couple of months. I'll be real compliant. And then I'll let you know that it didn't work because it's not going to do anything for me. It's not going to make any difference at all. And he suggested that I go take a full physical and that I check blood work. And I said, well, okay, I'll consider that. So I called my doctor and told him a little bit about it. He said, you know, that full physical out of your scheduled physicals is expensive. And I said, oh, well, I'll pay for it. You know, I told my buddy that I'd really check it out. So I'm going to take a full physical and then I'll take the stuff for a couple of months and then I'll take another full physical and we'll see. Well, I took the stuff for a couple of months. I started reading a little bit about it. So I had a little bit of belief, but not a lot. And in 2 months, I called my buddy and I said, that stuff hadn't done anything. I read that I should have a better attitude towards things, that this product would help me with stress. I can't tell any difference. I read that it would make you more amenable in difficult situations. I said, I don't think I'm any more amenable today than what I was back then. I read some stuff that said I would have more energy. I can't tell any difference in my energy. This stuff doesn't do anything. And he said, well, go get that other physical that you were going to take. And I said, man, I paid a lot of money for that physical. I don't know if I want to spend that money. He said, I'll buy this next physical. So I said, okay, if you want to pay for it. So I called my doctor and I said, I don't think this stuff has done anything. I can't tell any difference at all, but I'm going to get another physical. And my buddy is willing to pay for it. I wouldn't do it otherwise. So he called me with the results of the second physical and said, man, that stuff has made such a difference in your blood chemistry in all kinds of areas that you weren't even expecting. I can't see anything about your blood chemistry that has not improved, especially in the two areas that you would like the improvement the best. Now, it's not dramatic. It's not dramatic enough that you don't still have the difficulties, but what if it keeps doing that? And he said, I think we ought to take a physical every 2 months. And I said, I'm not going to buy a physical every 2 months. And he said, I will. So now my doctor is willing to buy me physicals. Everybody, his brother's willing to buy me physicals. So I was really the first real good sales agent because I took physicals every 2 months for a year and a half. And in that year and a half, my health blood chemistry went back to what it was many, many, many years ago. So I had dramatic improvement in my health by taking a nutrient. Pretty difficult to believe, but it happened. And we used that for years. There were people all over the world that had copies of my physicals for many, many years. And we found out that that's not ethical. So we had to stop doing that. You can't use one person's results like that, but it sure did convince a lot of people that you can make a difference in your health. And it got rid of skepticism because all we had to do is say, hey, look what happened with this guy. And he was skeptical. It's me. If you're skeptical, take a physical, then take the stuff, then take a physical, put your money where your mouth is. Do you think the stuff doesn't work? So we had a tool back then that was a lot of fun. I kind of wish we had it today, but we don't. I do still tell people that are real skeptical with me. I said, hey, if you're willing to really check us out and take a physical, but I said, but we got something really better than that now. We've got a guarantee that allows you to take the product for a long time and we'll give you everybody your money back. If you don't feel like it, you don't even have to have a reason. Just tell us you want your money back and give us the empty containers and we'll give you your money back. And I think most people can tell that this stuff works within several months. And let me tell you why I think that. For every person that represents our product, 16 people buy the product on a regular basis as customers and are not representing it to anybody. That's strong. That tells you how much people believe in our products. They're not going to stop. Recently, our sales went up very strongly because people wanted things that benefited their immune system. So those were the early days, and to give you some success without having the laboratory that we have now, without having the scientists, we sold $10 million worth of product the first year. The second year, 30 million. The third year, 90 million. Why did we do that? Because the stuff works. Our product works. That's something we've always said. When we have people that stop taking our product, we have somebody that calls them and asks them what happened. It's always, well, we had a little bit of a budget difficulty, or, it's never, nobody ever says, well, the products don't work. They know the product that they work. So if people know that they work, and they know that there is a way that they can pay for them by representing it to other people. Maybe this is a little mean, but I tell people that only selfish people pay for our product. If you're so selfish that you're not going to share it with the people that you love, then keep paying for the product and stop complaining. The price point should be a moot point. You know that it works. I personally feel, and I'm writing a new article right now called Obligated. I feel obligated to tell people about my products because of how beneficial they are to human health. It's just like if you see a fantastic movie or you read a very good book, you feel obligated to tell people that you love about that movie or about that book. If you drive to work one day and read a big sign that says there's going to be a construction that's going to shut that road down starting in 3 or 4 days, and you find out that somebody that you know is going to go down that road, you say, hey, did you know that there's going to be big construction? You might want to find a different way to go around that. You feel obligated. I feel obligated. I must tell people about Mannatech. Now, that doesn't mean everybody tells me yes. And I really don't mind people telling me no. I think that's their right. I just feel bad if I don't have the guts to make sure that I take the time. I put it off on me. I don't put it off on them. Everybody's not going to tell you yes. I think that you could walk around with a denomination of bills that's bigger than what you're asking for, and people wouldn't accept it. You could say, hey, here's a 10. I'll give it to you for a 5. And they'd look at you crazy and walk away. But I think that we're doing that too. We're offering people something that's worth a whole lot more than their money. I mean, how valuable is your health? So I hope that answers your question a little bit.
No, Ray, definitely. And I think, also that's the nice thing with the new edition of the customer referral program, where your customers can actually refer other customers to get loyalty points and actually be able to get their products for free. So I think that's a really nice addition. Because you can actually gauge in your organization who are the people that are actually, because if someone's constantly a customer referring new people, then it might be better for them to be an associate. Yeah. So that which is obviously terrific. So just quickly, there's been obviously a few people messaging me. I want to just go back to, when you launched your business. I mean, just for the listeners that are on the call this evening, Ray Robbins is the top income earner, not only in Mannatech, but one of the top income earners in the industry. I don't know, just in rand terms, he's made over 1.5 billion rand in commissions from Mannatech over the last 25 years. You can work out for yourself what that is per month and per year and so forth. But that obviously comes because of a service to many, many people. I mean, you've built an organization well over 1 million people in your team. So let's go back to, how did you start? How did you launch your business? I mean, maybe give us, some stories about, how many people you were talking to. Because I think one of the big challenges that we constantly at least that I see a lot of people do when they sign up with Mannatech is some people start a business and some people launch a business, So, I think I want you ideally to just cover, a few facts about, some of the things you did back then to get the momentum going and sort of what happened with that.
Well, I'm a person of intensity. I believe that when I make a decision to do something, that I shouldn't do it just halfway. An example that I've used for a long time, I got from a real good friend of mine back in the beginning named Jet. He said, if you're a pilot your co-pilot doesn't say at the end of the runway and you're about to take off, how much fuel do you want me to give it? That never happens. You always give it everything you've got. You give it full fuel until you get to a certain speed, and then you pull back and take off. You don't reduce that fuel. You don't reduce that intensity. You don't reduce that activity at all until you get to a certain altitude. I believe the same way about everything that I do. I believe in being intense. So in the beginning, now I don't think intensity is required of everybody. I think for people that want to get into this at a part-time basis and dedicate just a few hours a week to it, I think that's acceptable. But that's not the way I did it, and that's not the way that I necessarily recommend it to most people. I recommend that you spend a lot of time with it. I think that a lot of people have a 40-hour work week, and that 40-hour work week pays the bills, pays for their housing, pays for their cars, pays for their food. I believe that my time will pay for your future and pay for much more than what you're going to gain from that 40-hour regular job. So I like people to commit to a bunch of hours, maybe 40. You know, there's 168 hours in a week. So even if you have a 40-hour week job, I believe in throwing 40 hours into this and really learning, really know your product, really put together a list of people you're going to contact and really contact them. Make sure that before noon every day, you talk to 10, 15 people. My first month, I signed up 20 people. How many people did I have to talk to sign up 20 people? Maybe 150. You know, I think that a lot of people you talk to are going to take some follow-up, some serious follow-up. So you're not going to get a high percentage of people, but I think you should talk to a lot of people. If you write down a list of everybody that you know in every capacity, people that you've worked with in the past, people that you've gone to church with in the past, people you've gone to school with in the past, people that are related, it's amazing how many people you know. And then when you start getting into network business, every time you talk to somebody new, that's a new person that you're bringing into your life. That's what's called the warm market. And to me, I believe in creating a warm market on a regular basis. There's never a day in my life that I don't talk to someone that I've never known before, and they become someone that I want to develop an interest in, and I want them to have an interest in me. So probably the best thing I could say to a person that's new or a person that's been doing this for a long time, who are you talking to? Who's on your list? Who are you meeting? And for a long time, we couldn't meet anybody. We were stuck in our homes. But you could still meet people online. You could still meet people on the phone. My mother has a hard time calling people on the phone. She messes up the numbers. And it's such a pleasure for her because she ends up with wrong numbers all the time. And she's made friends all over the United States. She says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I have a little bit of trouble hitting the right numbers. So for some reason or another, I'm supposed to be talking to you. Where do you live? You know, what do you do?" And she gets conversations going with these people, and they maintain a continued relationship with her. She's got people that she's met like that on the phone that call her and say, "Hey, I'm going to be in San Antonio, Texas in a couple of months, and I would love to visit you. Would you meet me somewhere?" And she tries to put together a meet with somebody she met on the phone and developed a relationship. I'm the same way. I think that we can all be, the word is called gregarious. You're outreaching. You want everybody to be in your life. And so even if you're not an outgoing person, become one. It becomes so much more fun. Life is so much fun for people that just start conversations with other people. Recently, I was standing outside of a restaurant with a good friend of mine, and somebody was walking up the front entrance of this restaurant with a bag that had a gift in it. And I said, "Oh, did you bring me a gift this morning?" And they said, oh, sure, and acted like they were going to hand me that back. Now, that's the kind of thing that people will do that don't know you from Adam if you say something. Now, she could have just as easily said, no, and walked right past me, not wanting to talk to me at all. But how would it have hurt me if she'd have done that? It wouldn't have. But I ended up getting that person. I told them a little bit about Mannatech. I've already followed up a little bit with some information. There's a great deal of interest. A week ago, I was out in my front yard doing a chore for my wife, and a guy came walking up that wanted to know if I had anybody that trimmed my trees. He was in the business of pruning trees, and we've got a whole bunch of them on our land. And I said, yeah, I've got a guy, and he does pretty good work. So every time I need somebody, I call him, and he said, who is he, and what does he charge you? And I said, I tried to get the guy in business with me selling nutritional supplements, and he's not interested. So I'd be willing to talk to you if you'd be open to getting involved in business with me. And he said, well, tell me a little bit about your product. And he said, you know what? I think I'd like your product, even if I don't prune your trees. And I said, great, let's get that started. And he's in business with me now. And the rest of the conversation wasn't about my trees. He became very interested in my products for his health and his family's health. And he's interested in developing a business with Mannatech. He said, in my business, I have times where I just can't keep up with everything. And then I go through 4 months where there's nothing to do. He said, I could get my crew doing something like this. And I said, well, I can tell you right now, the next time I need my trees trimmed, you're going to be the one that does it too. Why would I want to keep using that guy that won't get in business with me? I found somebody that will be in business with me. And I've done that with a number of different people. Why would I go get my hair cut from somebody that won't listen to me about Mannatech? There's a lot of people willing to cut my hair, and they all do the same. I get a pedicure and a manicure every once in a while. Why would I want somebody to continue doing a manicure or pedicure with me and they won't talk to me about my products? I'm not interested in that. Why? If I'm going to spend money with them on a regular basis, why wouldn't they let me make them healthier? And so, maybe I'm a little bit much with that. And I'm not recommending that you get rid of people that you do business with if they don't do business with you. But if I'm given a choice between somebody that will and somebody that won't even listen to me, I've got a couple of doctors that won't listen to me, but I keep going to them because I like how good a job that they do, and I probably will continue. But you just let a doctor in their same field come into my life, and they are interested in talking to me about Mannatech, then chances are real good I'm going to switch. So, did I say no?
Well, Ray, the one thing I can definitely, I've obviously through spending my, many times together in Hawaii and in America, and we've been in the UK, Europe together previously. And the one thing I can definitely share with everyone is that you're very, very spontaneous. And I think that's something, and you're obviously genuinely interested and not, interested in other people, and not, you don't try and be interesting, So I think that's, that's such an important thing, just to get conversations going with people and speak to people, not just because you want to sign them up in Mannatech, but speak to people because you're genuinely interested in them. And then you can find where you perhaps have a need, where they have a need where you've got, something that you can, solve that with, whether it be from a financial point of view or a business opportunity, or, even people can, consider about their retirement one day. So I think that's a great point, just to make sure you're always keeping conversations going with people. And I can, I've shared with many in the past, but a lot of times, I only sign people up 10 years later. And I'm sure, Ray, for you, maybe it's very similar. Maybe people you spoke to 25 years ago and you end up getting on the product today, or, 15 years ago. So it's just about people's circumstances changing and realizing that a no is not never, it's just not now. Just keep the relationship going with someone and don't burn your bridges.
Exactly. And I truly do love people and having all kinds of people in my life. Last week, my wife wanted me to get a couple of new pair of shoes, and we went to a particular department store that she likes. And as we walked up to the cash register, there was a lady and her daughter that were about to check out. And I said, "Are you guys a mom-daughter team?" And they said, yes. And a lot of people wouldn't have even talked to them. And I said, well, my wife and her daughter just love to shop together. I said, I think it's so neat to see a mom and her daughter that are enjoying doing that together. And the girl looked like she was college age. And so I figured she's probably home from school for the summer. And I said, are you going to college somewhere? And she said, I am. And I said, where are you going? Where she told me just floored me, because it's a very unknown college, very small college. It specializes in art students. Well, one of my grandsons is going to go to that college. He's already decided he's going to go to Samford, that small college in Alabama, because he loves art. And I was able to say, you're not going to believe this, but I've got a grandson that is looking so forward to going to Samford. She said, nobody knows Samford. Every time I say Samford, they say, where is that? I said, it's amazing that somebody knows where it's at. My wife and I became instant friends with that mom and her daughter just because I started the conversation. They don't know what I do for a living. They don't have any idea. I never even thought about it at the time. But I bet that there will be a time that they do find out what I do and they'll have an interest. And we've got 5 studies that prove, 5 different university studies that prove that our products improve your cognitive capability. Does a college student need to have the best cognitive capability possible? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that I've got 7 grandkids that are all doing better in school because they're taking Mannatech products. I've got 5 studies that prove it. I love to tell people about those 5 studies.
Wow, thank you. No, absolutely. Ray, I want to just ask you a little bit about, if you've been part of Mannatech for quite some time, obviously I've been in Mannatech now for 13 years. So, I mean, you've obviously been involved for a lot longer than I have, but sort of how do you keep yourself motivated and how do you keep yourself going, after being in the industry for such a long time, same company? That's the one part of the question. The second part of the question that I want to ask you is, have you ever felt like you've got stuck and things aren't happening and your business is not moving forward and you're doing all the basics, but it's just not happening? Maybe if you can just on those 2 parts, the one part, obviously, how do you keep yourself motivated? Obviously having done this for quite some time. And the second question to that is, when you get stuck, what has sort of been your course of action that you've taken when you've felt that you sort of hit a brick wall?
Okay, I really appreciate those 2 questions, and I can definitely relate to both of them. The biggest thing that keeps me motivated is the obligation part that I told you earlier. I feel obligated to tell people about something that could improve their health so much, and I feel obligated to tell people about something that can help them address their finances. I feel obligated to tell people about M5M that helps kids. I mean, 100,000 children every day get Vital Blend because of us. And those 100,000 kids caretakers are constantly telling us, we've got kids that we didn't think could ever behave. And because of better nutrition, now they're behaving. We have kids that weren't doing that well with their classes, and now they're doing better because of better nutrition. We know how many kids go to sick bay every day. We know because of your better nutrition, those kids are not sick as frequently. So there's an obligation for me. I also run into times that are a little bit disappointing to me because I'll go through a lot of rejection in a row. I will share my product or share my program, and people say, no, I don't think so, or not right now, or can we get back a little later? So it's not uncommon for me to go through a bad streak. A baseball player that hits the ball 1/3 of the time that they go up to the plate is considered to be one of the best baseball players ever. To have a batting average over 300 is considered to be extraordinary. What I would say that that's probably better than what I am. I probably have more no's than the 1/3. And sometimes they run in a row. But I know that I'm giving good information. If you know that what you're sharing is valuable, then the person that's losing out is not you, it's the person that's saying no. We have sales incentive contests, and I love to get up in front of people at those sales incentive contests and say, you know who's not here? Look around and see who's here. Who is not here? It's the people that told you no. The no's aren't here. The no's conduct their life like that. They're no people. And they think they know more than you do. And so, yeah, I run into tough times. But because of my obligation, I'm not going to stop. Recently, I realized that my business is worldwide. So I check out what you're doing, JP, on a regular basis. I check out what the Europeans are doing. I look at leaders all over. There have been times that I've called you to compliment you on how your volume increased or something. That's because I check those. And recently, I found a place in the world where my business is suffering. And we're doing pretty good all over the world. In fact, even in that country, the sales were up overall for the whole. But my particular part, I don't get paid for everybody that's in Mannatech. I'm just like everybody else. I have legs that go a certain distance. And in that particular country, I have 5 different legs that go into that country and do business. And my 5 different legs in those countries is suffering. So I called Chris Simon and said, hey, my business, now I know you're even doing better in that country than you had been, but my particular 5 legs that go into that country are suffering. So what do you recommend I do? And Chris said, okay, I want you to get more involved. Now, I'm not going to just have you work with the 5 legs that are directly related to your organization, your director, your organization you're paid for, but I want you to work with everybody. So I'm going to be very involved for the next year or so with Chris in the development of some stuff in that particular country. And so it'll benefit me, it'll benefit them. And so, you know, I can have my business suffer. The same thing happens with you, JP. If you check all parts of your business, you'll see different parts that aren't doing as well as you would like. And you might have been doing stuff with them and doing the same thing you're doing with other parts that are doing well. So you address those. I think that in this business, you have to spend a certain amount of time developing new business. You have to spend a certain amount of time keeping up with business that is doing well. And you have to spend a certain amount of time with parts of your business that are weak. So it's just life, and it's that way in any business. What if I was selling Coca-Cola worldwide? And I realized that all of a sudden my business in Poland was really suffering. Then I would start addressing different things that I wanted to do in my business in Poland. Let's say that I'm doing Coca-Cola, but that business that was suffering was closer to home. My Texas business was doing great, but I noticed that my Louisiana business was falling off. Then I would work with my Louisiana business. So I think that the bigger your business goes, the more you have to figure out what amount of time am I going to spend with new business, current business that's suffering, current business that's doing great. I think it's real bad to ignore the business that's doing real good. I think one of the most important things you need to do is call and compliment people that are doing real good, where they're doing real good. But where business is not, you call those leaders too and say, hey, can I help you in some way or another? Is there something I can do? I'm here to serve you. I don't think you're working for me. I think I'm working for you. And I need to offer my expertise or my knowledge or my something. What can I do for you?
Ray, just on, you know, when you, in your experience, like what have you, when you do see certain organizations suffer or or not really suffer, I don't want to call it suffer, but if certain organizations aren't growing, what is that normally? What's the contributing factor towards that? Or then maybe if you can shed some light on that, because I mean, if you look at one organization that's just, growing, because obviously all groups go through times when they're growing quickly, then they slow down, and they're growing quickly. But groups that are on momentum, what are they doing to be in momentum compared to, leaders at least that, where there's not that much momentum?
Okay, when it is happening for me, I call and ask. And I get answers that sometimes are not exactly what I think is going on. So I have to do a little research and figure out what it is. And then I have to be a counselor to those people. A lot of times when I call and ask somebody, your business, your volume is off about 15% in the last 2 months. What's going on? And they'll tell me what they think it is and their concerns. And sometimes I find out that it's even different from what they think, or it's a mixture of those. I'll tell you what I usually find out, and it's true with just about everything. It's a general lack of activity. And sometimes that lack of activity is very valid. As an example, I talked to someone today in the United States who has not had a good volume for about 3 months in a row now. And I found out, and I've been talking to this person. I've talked to them 4 or 5 times during that time frame. And but I just found out that person has lost a mother and a son in the last couple of months. That person has a sister that was very ill. That person decided to downsize and they had to move. So a whole lot of her lack of activity is very valid. So with her, I just wanted to give an encouraging word about, hey, I understand exactly where you're at. And that's the reason why you are an entrepreneur. So that as an entrepreneur, when things like that happen in your life, you can back off. You don't have to have as much activity. The first thing she said when I said that was, hey, you just give me a few more weeks and I'm going to be just as active as ever. And I'm going to pull my business right back up to where it was at. And then I'll go beyond that. So the number one reason why business is usually off is lack of activity. The reason why there is lack of activity is twofold. It's because of things happening to people in life. We all have things happen to us that absorb us, that take a lot of time. Or it could be that we get lazy, we get complacent, we get comfortable. One of the biggest concerns I have with some of my leaders is they get to a certain income level that is plenty for them. That's all they need. And they get comfortable. And I have found a lot of people preach that in this business, you get an income to a certain level and it'll last forever. That's not so. It is not so. It's not so in any business. There might be an extent of that in this business, but in every business, you have to keep putting a certain amount of activity in there to maintain your business, to maintain the retention. People follow us. People follow leaders. If you stop being active, guess what people in your organization are going to start doing? They're going to stop being active also. So the number one reason is activity. The number one reason is staying in the chase, showing up, doing things like what you're doing right now. That over 400 people that are on this call right now, there's many things they could have been doing at this time of the evening, wherever they're at, but they chose to show up. People that show up are people that are active and people that do. I want to encourage all of you that are listening, that are watching this right now, increase your level of activity and you will watch great things happen. Activity creates results. Things that you do have consequences. If you do little, the consequences are going to be less favorable. If you do a lot, the consequences are going to be more favorable. It's not rocket science. It's just pretty simple that people that are active are people that succeed.
Well, Ray, I think that's incredibly, I think that's incredibly powerful. I think I remember always, in fact, there's a CD that you guys did many years ago called Millionaire Development University. And you spoke about the only two things you can control is your attitude and your activity. And if your attitude isn't right, you're definitely not going to be putting in the activity in any way. So I think that's very, very powerful. And I think, just for me, looking at, if you're on the call this evening, sometimes it can become very overwhelming if you're new to this, that, when you're talking about speaking to 100 people or 200 people. But I think for me, always break it down. And I think, Ray, you've always said, be activity driven, not results driven. So forget about the results that you're going to get. Just make sure you're putting in the basics. And I think something that's always stood me in good stead over the last sort of 13 years is every week I try and meet with at least 5 people if I can. Sit down and talk to at least 5 people. Show them the plan, explain the product to them, but at least 5 meetings a week. And you can imagine if you're doing 5 meetings a week on Zoom, that's something that's attainable for every single person, whether you full-time or part-time. Look at what you can do, what the bare minimum is you can do every single week. And if you compound that over years, you're gonna be so surprised at where you're gonna end up. I mean, I never ever imagined, when I first started Mannatech, to become $1 million earner or a platinum presidential. For me, I wanted to earn an extra $500 a month. So I want to encourage all of you is, yes, have that big picture of the long-term goal that you have, but don't forget the short-term activity that's going to have to take to match up to whatever the goals you've set out. Ray, I think we're getting on to the hour. So I want to just maybe, if you've got some closing thoughts, just something that can really inspire everyone to really go out there. We sort of have just in South Africa launched, through Chris Simons and, the corporate team, we've launched the new 2020 program, which is obviously very, very exciting. So we'd like to obviously end the year off well. We traditionally in South Africa have seen, after July, we start kicking into momentum, July, August, September, October, November, those months being our stronger months. So if there's some closing thoughts that you could share with some of the listeners, on the call this evening, it can really go and inspire them to really go out there and just go for it.
I sent through David Wood, I sent an email to you today.
Yes.
On service. I think that you look at that, you rewrite that, you write it the way you like, how it fits with your organization, and then send that out to your people or discuss it in a future call. I think that might be the best subject for me to give closing comments on, that I believe that I am a servant. I believe that my responsibility is to serve. And part of service is to really care about people. Part of service is to be available to people. Part of service is to know the product line, be able to answer questions, be able to counter objections, be on conference calls, be on 3-ways, be on Zoom calls, be on whatever my organization wants of me. When people ask me, like you sent me a deal a little bit earlier saying something along the lines of, are there any particular questions that you would like me to ask in the interview? And I sent you back something that in essence said, JP, you're the boss. I'm working for you in this. I want to serve you. And I think that's part of the attitude thing that you talked about a little bit earlier. People that have an attitude of service, that they really belong to their organization and the successes of others is so valuable. So I think that I'm not going to say a whole bunch about the service because you just got what I wrote up and sent it to some of my key people. So I'll pass it on to you and you can use it however you want to with your organization. So everybody on this call can be aware that you're going to be getting something from JP that he fine-tuned for what he thinks about service and how it can help you with your business. We already talked about attitude and activity being so important. I like to add service to that. Well, that's part of your attitude. But if you have a great attitude and it comes across, you are attractive to people. Another way to be attractive to people is to serve them. So make yourself attractive. I mean, look at me and look at JP. I mean, he's obviously attractive by physical appearance. I have to be attractive differently. I had my day when I was as young as JP, but The way all of us can be attractive is with our attitude and service.
Wow, Ray, thank you so much. I know there's a lot of messages coming through, and people are saying, yeah, we wish we could carry on for a little bit longer. But I think we'll definitely, I have got the email from you regarding regarding service. I will definitely pass that out to everyone, or at least to all the leaders, all the presidentials in my group, and they can obviously filter it down into their organizations. But I just want to, just from my side, I just want to thank you very, very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. It's been, it's always great to spend time with you. I hope that we get to spend some time again in person in the near future. And just thank you for the massive beacon of hope and light you offer so many people out there. I mean, I'm incredibly grateful this evening, to think, 25, 26, 27 years ago, I mean, you were willing to go out there and go and talk to people and face rejection and have people not show up and be the road warrior, to allow me today to sort of live my dream life and be able to go out there and make a difference to other people. And I'm grateful to be able to obviously, stand under the shade that you have started a long time ago. And I think that's just a testimony, for you've got a massive heart for other people, and you definitely have built such a legacy, just not only from a monetary point of view, just from the amount of people you've helped, over the years. I think if there's one other thing I can share with everyone is that you're incredibly humble. I don't think you need to be, but you are an incredibly humble leader, and I think that's something that I obviously have always admired about you. And I look forward to spend many more moments with you. And I've always learned from you. And I think to everyone on the call this evening, the response has been immense. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and to all the leaders on the call this evening. And we've had close on to 450 people on the call that have all been very, very excited to hear from you. And I think if I can ask everyone on the call, if you can maybe in the chat box maybe send Ray a message just to say thank you. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. It'll probably take him probably half an hour to read through all the messages, but I've no doubt that he'll really appreciate it. So thank you again from my side. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate all the comments people have put. I've really enjoyed reading them. And, great set of people. You're very blessed, JP, that so many wonderful people have been attracted to you and you've supported them. So it's a blessing both ways.
Thank you so much, Ray. And I want to wish all of you an incredible rest of the week and an amazing month. And let's end July strong. Thank you very much, Ray. Good evening, everyone. Thanks again for your time.
Bye all.